Hey there, I'm Scott, and this is Tangents. Well, I haven't done one of these in about 20 days. I think the last one I recorded was on the 8th, and today is the 28th of December. Damn near 2022. Uh, never, never gonna get used to how fast that goes. Um, the main reason I haven't done one of these in a while is just CES. The Consumer Electronics Show is coming up the first week of January. And we have some customers who are showing stuff there, and so everything was like a mad rush to get it ready before then. And it's interesting. I don't really celebrate Christmas, but a lot of people do, and it's interesting to kind of put this massive activity that, like, I'm sure we're not the only company that had to race to get stuff done. Um, you know, just kind of seems dumb. I don't know. And especially, I mean, like decades ago, the Consumer Electronics Show was kind of cool. At one point, I think Apple used to present there, and they stopped a long time ago. And it's just like, and not that Apple's great anymore, to be fair, but I don't know, it's just silly. Like making a lot of electronic crap and just nothing too exciting there. And I really think increasingly, like, yeah, we've looked at getting booth space there, and it's stupidly expensive. Um, I don't know. It's just I'm not saying it's a scam exactly, but I just don't see the point of it. If you had something really cool to show, you could make a video. You could put it on YouTube or TikTok or whatever the fuck, and you could show it pretty easily now. I mean, you can see also. It's kind of funny. They have the Steve Jobs Theater at Apple, um, which is a very lovely place. The new campus is pretty cool, but it's also kind of redundant. Um, for so long, Jobs was doing those presentations, the Macworld Expo, and all this kind of stuff, and those presentations had a live audience, and they kind of had to. Like at the time, even when they started streaming them, which has been some time now, it wasn't really there to not do that. And now every single one of them is fully produced. It's basically like a quick, tight news show, which is cool, I guess. But also, Tim Cook is no Steve Jobs. Nobody presenting there is all that good or compelling. I'm not trying to shit on people. It's just like, the bar was set pretty fucking high, and also, I mean, part of it is like trying to emulate something that worked before rather than just doing their own thing. And they are kind of doing their own thing, I guess, but they're basically, as I see it, doing a shitty version of, like, a pale imitation of Steve Jobs. It just doesn't work. Even the Steve Jobs stuff wasn't perfect when he was doing it, and they're doing a shitty version of it now. But this thing where they're recording, essentially in a studio, kicking to people at different locations, all this kind of stuff, seems like that's, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't do that now. And if you're doing that, I mean, if you wanted to do like a Steve note, essentially, like the old presentations, why not record in just a little area like this? I mean, especially if you have the nice little sound stage, and put the presentation together, record it in advance so it can be very tight. You could have good effects. Or if you do it live, it could be a live demo. It doesn't have to have people there. I mean, what's the difference really? I mean, obviously, if you're trying to demo something new and it's cool, and it's not live, or it's in a set where you could easily just superimpose like CGI or whatever, maybe not as compelling, but I just don't really, I don't get it. And then you see all of these people, it's not just Apple aping Steve, it's like, you have Elon Musk who does a lot of this shit. Um, yeah, and I watch a bunch of their presentations, they're just not very good. What the fuck is his name? Zuckerberg. Jesus, that guy. It's like Yeah. And he's gotten much better, but they do these Facebook, essentially like a WWDC version of things for Facebook, and it's just not good. It's not good. It's off-putting. Um, it's really like it's depressing that this guy, both him and Musk, and I mean obviously like Bezos and all. You can go through a whole fucking list of people who have essentially unlimited resources for any practical thing that they would want to do. And you just look at it and it's just like, it's not just bad that a few people have such a concentration of wealth when poverty still exists, but also the people who have it are some of the shittiest people in the world. Like you literally could pick a handful of people completely randomly from the Earth's population. And the probability is extremely good that those people would be far more worthy of being massive multi-billionaires than anyone with a net worth of, say, over $50 billion, which is, it's an exclusive club, and mostly an exclusive club of shitheads. Now, I don't really have too much that I want to talk about today. I'm calling this one back because I'm coming back. It might be a duplicate name, but yeah, I wanted to get something in the can because it's just been so long. And I'm going snowboarding tomorrow. So tomorrow probably wouldn't work. And then the week is going to be over, and I have a bunch of shit to do, and I have a bunch of kind of projects kind of in flight. So I'm not sure when I would be able to do it again until next week, which is, it's like another 7 days on. It'd be almost a month from the last one. That didn't sound good to me, so I'm recording this one. I do have to get back to the cadence though. There's something I like about doing this. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's appealing about it. Something weird happened a few days ago. I had a massive number of hits on my domain, which I suspect it could be that all of a sudden became popular. I suspect more likely than that, it's just some assholes didn't like something I said on Twitter, and so their whole thing is, like somehow, we're just gonna try to crack into the site, or I mean, who knows what the fuck. Almost all of the stuff I ever run into on I was gonna say Instagram, on YouTube, is just people who find me from Twitter and they're upset about something I said on Twitter. Often about Elon Musk. I say something like, just an example. I said a while back that, he's very successful because he's had billions of dollars in corporate welfare, which he has. And, I mean, it's an interesting thing because people, there's this massive disconnect. And I get it, I guess. At some point, if somebody's net worth is a couple $100 billion, at least on paper, even temporarily, even if it goes down because their stock price is overly inflated, at some point, though, they do have a lot of purchasing power. They have a lot of influence. It's not like, this is a person who could decide tomorrow to hire, make 100 people's lives massively better, or he could ruin 100 people's lives and not even think about it. Not too many of us are in that position. So there's something, I wouldn't say godlike, but demigod-like. Like there are people who, these are people who can really swing far beyond their weight. And so in that sense, I guess I get that people kind of worship them low-key, but it's so fucking weird. Like, I mean, these are people who would, like, if you were on fire, Elon Musk would not piss on you to put you out. It wouldn't even bother, would not lift a finger to help these people. And yet they will go to bat for him time and again. And it's so fucking weird. And not only do they go to bat for him, they'll get super upset on Twitter. And then they have, every time I do any kind of interaction with him, I get hit by like literally hundreds of sock puppets, which of course Twitter does fuck all about because, which I assume is maybe, probably like tens or dozen people with a bunch of accounts, and they're just like shitting on me in a really stupid way, very immature, kind of like, okay. You get that. Always there's some Bitcoin scammers that come in, and it's just like weird. It's just like, what the fuck, guys? But then that's not enough. They will like kind of dig. They've got a lot of time and energy and, I guess nothing better to do. So they start digging outside and they're like, oh, you've got some stuff on YouTube. So I'm going to get into one of your videos and start commenting. Annoyingly, I guess it's not annoying. It depends on your perspective. I personally would like to keep the comments there, mainly because I find them kind of funny. But these guys put shitty stuff on them, and then I guess YouTube's filter just sees that, and I get a notification, and then I can't even, they must, I don't know if they clean it out or they hide it or whatever they do, I can't even respond to them, and most of the time I just want to laugh at them, but YouTube doesn't give me the choice. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just so fucking weird. It's so weird. Like, I've been in places, I guess, in my life where I had a lot of time on my hands and I guess some energy, but just to do this kind of stuff, to be this bothered by somebody saying something negative. And I get the same thing also, like, criticize Biden for example, yesterday there was a clip, and in this clip, few-second clip, I shared it and I made a comment. Actually, I didn't even share it. I made a comment on it. And basically, he said in the clip, that there's just no federal, I don't even remember what the quote was, but basically he was saying, we're not going to have any kind of federal organized response to COVID, to the pandemic. And he was talking to, I can't remember the dude's name, but I believe the governor of Arkansas. And I said something like, if you're the president of the United States and you say we have no federal response to an ongoing pandemic or anything, up of that magnitude, I feel like that should be a resignation. It should just be the preamble to, like, I can't do my job and, I'm throwing my hands up. Somebody who can do it, please take over. And I said something like that on Twitter, obviously, because that's where I do most of my stuff. And I got, a bunch of people agreeing, tons of people liking it. And then somebody found it at some point, and I'm sure, for various reasons, I'm pretty sure this is from K-Hive, which is this weird group, often bot/sock puppets, but also real people who are just obsessed in an extremely unhealthy way with Kamala Harris. And I mean, holy shit, these people are fucking insane. Like, and I don't mean, not trying to use ableist language, I'm sorry, but they're just out of their gourds. They have so much energy, they have so many fake accounts, and it's the same thing. Like, criticize this dude or criticize, I didn't even say anything about Kamala. In fact, if he resigned, then she'd be the president because she's the next in the line of succession. They should be happy, but never mind that now. Somebody shared a clip, or they shared the rest of the video for context. And the guy's like, oh, haha, it's easy to pull out this little 5-second clip and then make fun of something, but when you look at it in context, it's much better. And I don't know, despite being somebody who puts out these long videos, and I do listen and watch a lot of podcasts and videos, I don't really like, if somebody shares something like that, I generally don't like to watch it, especially when it's something about a subject that I know a lot about. But when it's something like this, it's like, that's just fucking boring as shit. But I saw it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look at it. Maybe I'm wrong here. I watch it, and the first, like, it was a 4.5, maybe 5 minute, just under 5 minute clip, let's say that, with the part that I was talking, I didn't even share it again, but the part that I was talking about was like 2.5 minutes in. So I watch it, and it's this governor really sucking Biden off, a Republican governor, talking about how much he appreciates, I think Arkansas, doesn't matter, but sucking Biden off, just grotesque and boring as shit. The combination of just like sloppy, getting sloppy going down on him, and being so fucking boring and tedious. It's hard to understand. But yeah, he goes down, and then Biden comes on, and he's like, well, there's no federal response to this. And in the context, it's very clear. I watched it. It's very clear Biden meant to the entire pandemic. And then he blathers on for a while, and it's, just, you look at it, and there's just no, unless you're deliberately trying to misinterpret it, there's no way to come to a conclusion watching this thing that Biden wasn't saying there's just no federal response to the pandemic. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Sure, the preamble of the Constitution lays out that the common, the welfare of the people is like one of the reasons that we have a federal government to begin with. But never mind that now. He just can't do anything. And when he was campaigning, there are tweets and there are videos of him talking about how, if he was there, he'd shut it down and get this stuff under control. This is back when we had like 200,000 deaths. Talking about how bad of a job Trump did. And to be fair, Trump did a horrible, fucked up job. I am not in any way defending Trump. This is another thing that drives me insane. I will say shit about Biden, and then without fail, some jackass comes in, and they're like, oh, so you must like Trump, or Trump is better than this, ha ha ha. No, fuck you. Trump, horrible, 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 horrible. Unbelievably bad, unbelievably awful, difficult to comprehend that it's even possible to be so bad. Many standard deviations from the mean in terms of just general narcissistic personality disorder, and just being an asshole, being, like so sure of himself, or at least projecting that. I assume having a horrible low self-esteem, feeling like shit about himself, and, compensating for it with this fake bolster, but just a real piece of shit kind of guy. And horrible president, with an asterisk, I always like to do that. Biden had that bar, which is subterranean. And I'm not saying that Biden, I do know people who say Biden is worse than Trump. I'm not going to go that far. But I don't think he's that much better. He's not like light years better. He's certainly not, I would say he's still subterranean. It's just, the bar that Trump set is so low that he clears it barely. But, it's just terrible. It was just dumb. So you get these people, they swarm on you, and it's just like both of the cases just weird and annoying. And I've taken to just, when this shit happens, especially when they're obvious sock puppet accounts, it's like a person with a very fake picture. The name is like first name, bunch of numbers rather. And they have 20 followers, and then you go through the followers and they're all the same. I just basically like report all of them as fake accounts, block them, go through their followers, do the same to those. Sometimes I'll even go 3 steps out, 2-3 steps out, because I fucking hate this. It is a scourge on Twitter. It is without a doubt one of the things that makes Twitter just, I like a lot of things about Twitter. That is one of the more annoying things about Twitter. They will, I was just talking to somebody before I got on here, and she has harassers. And I know, the funny thing about this is, if you went through my interactions with people on there and I described this, it wouldn't uniquely define one person. I know several people who have multiple harassers, or they have one person who is, I assume, has some serious mental problems. And they will harass them. They have like dozens of these burner sock puppet accounts and just incessantly harass them. And, Twitter gets these reports from this person, they get them from other people. People like me see it, they report these accounts, they report horrible things that they say. Occasionally they'll take down a tweet, but generally speaking, they don't take down the accounts, or they'll take down like 1 out of 20 accounts. And it's like, well, thank you. This is really fucking helpful. Or a year later, I'll get a report that's like, okay, we finally took down that account. Well, that's great because they already moved on to, another account, then another account after that. You did fuck all. It's almost worse than nothing. But they just, and I do get it. I get it. Like, Twitter's stock price totally depends on their active user counts. Twitter's ad price, the amount that they can charge for ads, depends on active user counts, and it depends on impressions. And all of these things are hyperinflated by all of these sock puppets. So I know a bunch of people who, get hit with these just groups of, a lot of people just kind of call them bots, but they're really mostly sock puppets. They're like, you do get bots too, like legitimately scripted stuff with some kind of like natural language processing stuff, or, but a lot of them are just a bunch of sock puppets. The Twitter app makes it easy to have multiple accounts. So you get people, I'm sure they're in the app, they're on the website, they create fake accounts, and they're using the same machine. So it's probably not that hard for Twitter to identify not only the one, but the whole fucking collection. And all of these collections, really, at least the majority that I run into, they have like a fuck ton of fake accounts, and then all the fake accounts follow some fraction of the fake accounts. So you get this illusion, not that they have mass followings, but that they have some following. You'll see 20 accounts following this one obviously fake account. And all of those 20 accounts usually like 18 will be other fake accounts. And then 1 or 2 will just be some other account that basically automatically follows back. So you go through that and it's like, oh, here's a blue check with like 1 million followers, but it's just somebody who clearly follows back everybody who follows them. So the fake account follows them to get some kind of, oh, look, we're not just a sock puppet thing. But anyway, I mean, this would be something, I talk about this, algorithmically identifying these names, you could do probably in an afternoon. Finding these networks, it's not even like something you'd have to build de novo. There are research papers on it where people have done this. But if Twitter was doing it, they could do it in no time at all. And the reason that I know that they don't do this, despite every fucking one of their executives that I've ever talked to about this, insists, oh, we really care. We're really trying this. It's just a highly adversarial landscape, It's just that every time we do something, they come back with something else. It's this arms race. That's the story they tell you. But the thing about the arms race is that if there was an arms race going on, then the person, fighting you wouldn't be throwing stones, right? You would have some kind of armor, and their stones would no longer be effective, and then that forces them to do something else. And then you improve your armor, and then they improve. That's an adversarial landscape. This is, people are literally still throwing stones. John 127314112.2. Those are the kind of account names that we're talking about often. Sometimes they'll pick a topic and they have like a small dictionary. Often they go with a theme. They'll be like Philly sports and references to Philly sports, and then the whole botnet will have some random names with pseudo-random characters, and then it'll have like some Philly sports references that, or some team, or they're really into anime is a big one. They're really into cryptocurrency. And you'll find like these botnets that are just a bunch of people. They're all like hawking NFTs, and they all have algorithmically generated images along a similar theme. There was one that I came up across that was just a bunch of sort of random multicolored monkeys. And the monkeys were these cartoons, very clearly algorithmically generated, and just hundreds upon hundreds of them. They're all following each other. They're all, and I don't know if they're all owned by the same person and managed by the same person. I think some of these were probably different people. Each had their set of 10 or 12 or whatever, and they're all kind of in some sort of collaboration. They're all in some back channel chat someplace. I don't know if it's in Twitter chats or if it's in something completely out of band. Whatever it is, you can feel it's coordinated. Similarly with my thing, like one person yesterday in this K-Hive thing came and started getting in there, and then all of a sudden you got like 50 of them. It's like, wonder how this happened, And I'm pretty sure it's not that all of a sudden. It's an interesting thing too because it's a phase change. You see very clearly like the number of interactions kind of go up, and the responses are in a certain pattern, and the distribution of those responses, like likes to responses, is a certain way. And then all of a sudden, very quickly, there's an inflection, and you start getting all these shitty, responses. It's like, oh, what do you know? This is, really horrible shit. It's just infantile bullshit. And you can see, like, you can just feel it. Like, you can feel the difference. And you can feel that it's like a switch went off. Now, it could be Twitter's algorithm just suddenly pushing you to some different people. It's possible. I think there's a back channel. And I think I don't think there's like one back channel. I think that's like just the MO of people who do this kind of stuff. I've done enough in my life with like online forums and this kind of thing. I know kind of how people think about this stuff, and I'm always amazed by this, but you can really feel in text, and maybe it's just me because I've had some training on this, but you can really feel the tone of somebody. There was a forum I was on probably like 15, 20 years ago, and there was this dude who kept coming back, and he didn't really get kicked off of it, but it was just like everybody would like hate him. Not hate him, but he was like super annoying, super whiny, and people would just essentially like pile on him at a certain point, and then he'd like disappear. And then a week or two later, some other account would pop up, and that account at first seemed fine, but then you can start smelling it, you can start feeling it, and then you realize, oh, you're fucking Steve, aren't you? And then the worst thing was, you'd catch him, he would not admit to it, and obviously you can't, you have to give people a benefit of a doubt because maybe it is just some random person coming in. And then like 2 weeks later, he'd admit to it, or it would become hyper clear that it was. And then that would go through this cycle again and again. It's the same fucking shit. With this one yesterday, I don't know, I've had a number of things like this happen, but whatever it was, very recently, and actually another thing, I got this horrible fucking thing, spam, like fake newspaper kind of thing, from essentially someone selling giant air quotes natural supplements. And it was horrible anti-vax bullshit, telling me to go to some domain. The domain, I looked at the DNS records and the Whois record and had a phone number in Iceland, which didn't work. Or at least I tried it and I couldn't. It was like, the number you have dialed or you've reached is not in service or something like that. So I contacted the registrar, I contacted the hosting company. I'm not sure if this is the one that did this, but interestingly, this morning, I'm like starting my stuff, and all of a sudden I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subscriptions, like really quickly, to a bunch of stuff. Almost all were MailChimp. So the nice thing about MailChimp is you subscribe and then you have to click a confirmation. So I obviously didn't click any of those. I reported all of them as spam, all went to my folder, and then it kind of went away. So it was annoying, but not like that big of a deal. But one of those was signing me up to the domain that was coming from that newsletter, fake newspaper thing that somebody delivered to my door. So I kind of suspect that somebody there didn't like me because, I reported them, and they're just kind of like coming back. I don't know. It's just a guess, but I feel like that's probably an explanation. Could have been one of the the K-Hive people, or it could have been one of these other, who knows, who really cares? But it's just like the amount of energy people have for this kind of stuff, it's just disturbing. It's like, get a fucking life. And especially like whoever did this obviously was doing it was a script signing me up to a bunch of stuff. They're obviously like somewhat technically capable, I assume. And a number of there were patterns to the things that they signed me up for. A number of them were in Python. Not any other languages, but for some reason a lot of Python. And it kind of makes me think maybe this is somebody who knows a little bit of Python scripting, which I'm very judgy, and Python I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think it's a great language. Especially like anytime there's actual meaningful white space in a language, I feel like just a massive red flag. And I had a problem probably 20 years ago with a makefile. And I don't even remember, I haven't written a makefile in a long time, but this makefile, I'm pretty sure it has a tab. And in it, there were 5 spaces. So there were some lines that were tabbed and some lines that were 5 spaces. And it was set to tab at 5 spaces. And it would not work. I killed myself for a fucking day trying to figure out why this shit would not work. And then finally, I realized, tab versus white space, instantly fixed it, no problem. And I gotta tell you, ever since then, when I came upon Python after this and saw this, you tab things into some level rather than curly braces too. It's like curly braces, I get it. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to match them, but it's one of those things like strong typing. Having strong typing, having some, just like delimiters, like curly braces or parentheses or things that have to match. All of those things, they do not, this does not give you a guarantee that your code is correct. But the fact that it has some kind of an error like that, at least is something that can be detected before runtime. But with Python, you can have stuff indented in at a different level. And now, of course, you do have editors which will show the difference between spaces and tabs, and I have that set up in Atom and in code. But, so I can do it, it's not a big deal, and I know what I'm looking for, so it doesn't happen that much. But I have had a case where, like years ago, I was trying to do something. I got a little bit of Python sample code, copy pasted it into my thing. Indent level was wrong, and it was just, like the problem isn't that it's hard to indent or change the indent of something, but when you have a big chunk of code and a long thing, and it takes more than one screen, finding that end, what's supposed to be the end, when there's no delimiter, there's no like closed curly brace, it's a giant pain in the ass. And so for that reason, like I do understand, like if you've not programmed before, it's a little bit of a pain. I remember when I first started compiling stuff, getting a program, just a hello world program to compile without errors or warnings was an accomplishment at one point. I remember that. Now I can do it really without even trying. But at the time it was hard, right? And I get that's a frustrating thing. It's a little barrier to starting programming. So it's one of the reasons why people like Python. They can start it really easily. The problem is that you very quickly get past that level. Like if you do learn that, it's like it's not that big of a deal. You can get over it in a couple days, or maybe even less, depending on how much you're working on it. And if you don't get over it and you're stuck with the Python kind of syntax, the significant white space, then the rest of your life while you're using that language, you have these little bombs just waiting for you. Versus if you have the curly braces, it's not going to save you from every possible bug. It doesn't mean your code is actually going to do the things you think it's going to do. But at least it puts on a fucking seatbelt and some crash bars. You're not just like completely exposed on a platform that's going 80 miles an hour. So anyway, sounds like shoveling outside. pretty soon I'm gonna have to go to get my snowboard. I haven't gone snowboarding in several years. I always kind of think I should just buy one, but I never quite go enough to buy one. If I went like even 2 or 3 times in a season, it'd be worth it. Someday maybe I will, but I don't have, yeah, don't have the money for the moment, and especially to the extent that I'm flying. Like, flying is fucking expensive. So, making some progress there. Now certified to work on or to fly a SR-22T, which is different and cool. But it's definitely also, yeah, I think I've talked about that since it happened. But yeah, moving up, but it's also more expensive to fly. And the big problem with it is, like, I'm doing IFR training too. The IFR I'm learning in a Cessna 172S. And the nice thing about that plane, aside from the fact that it is fucking stable, like I learned in an Archer for my Piper Archer for my private pilot's license, PA-28. And that plane was not that bad. Some of them were stable and some were not. But yeah, it's a little touchy, a little fidgety. You get the thing trimmed out and sometimes it would work, sometimes not. The Cessnas, now granted, I have much more experience in the Archer than the Cessna. I've only flown the Cessna a handful of times. But when I fly the Cessna, every fucking time, even if there's some wind, you can just kind of like get it trimmed out and it basically just does what you want it to do. The Archer, I would have it like, not that this is necessarily good. The Cessna, you can almost like let go of and you just keep flying straight and level or doing whatever you were doing. The Archer, if you let go even for a second, something weird was going to happen. Now you could get it trimmed out and that would kind of go away, but every one of the Archers that I flew, with some very rare exceptions, I'd get it trimmed out and things would kind of be okay, and then then it would start like veering off to the side or doing something weird. And so I'd have to, and maybe it was just the conditions were never good when I was flying that, or I don't know, but I feel like in my limited set of experience, the Cessna is very kind of robust and easy to fly. And it's also not that fast, whereas the Cirrus, and you can fly in slow flight, but when you're in the Cirrus, you're going like 3 miles a minute, you kind of have to think ahead. And even in a slower plane, you have to think ahead, but you have so much more time to do the thinking in the Cessna or the Archer. And when I say Cessna, I mean like the 172S, or when I say Archer, I mean like PA-28. So like the trainer stuff that people are using, not like the higher performance, bigger vehicles of either of the brands. But anyway, just rambling on here. I think that's going to do it for today, because I do need to wrap up, close some stuff out, and get going. Thank you, as always, for listening and watching. I'm sorry it's been so long. I didn't even get that thing up until a few days ago, and it's just been a fucking pain in the ass. Like, I don't do that much editing to put these online, I'm sure you can guess. But even that little bit that I do, it takes time. And when I don't have time, recording this takes time, setting it up takes time, tearing it down takes time. And then the time in Logic and in Adobe Premiere to get everything like just to the level that I'm putting it out at, which again, there's no real editing. There's just like some trimming and some, like fixing some stuff and just like a little bit of dialing in, but not much. All of that stuff eats up enough time that when I'm busy, it's hard. So with that, thank you. Hopefully I will enjoy the snowboarding, and I'll get back to you soon enough. Thanks. 再见.